The Stumpy is one of Specialized's best-known mountain bike families, with the name going back decades to the early years of the brand. In fact, the Stumpjumper name has been around almost as long as the mountain bike, but how does this latest version fare? Stick around to find out if it's moving with the times or if it's stuck in the past. But before I get into that, why not subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? I've been riding the Specialized Stumpjumper Comp, which is the cheapest Stumpy in the range. Currently, it's their 130mm travel trail bike, while there's an Evo version offering a touch more travel and a much more aggressive shape at a wider range of prices. The frame I've been riding is built from their Fact 11M carbon, with just the S-Works frames getting a higher grade carbon. To protect that lovely finish, the frame receives down tube and chainstay rubberized protection. The down tube features SWAT door storage, whereby a plate under the bottle cage opens up to reveal a storage door inside the down tube, which houses a neat bag if you wish to use it. The included bottle cage has a mini tool holster bolted to the base of it, with the mini tool having all the usual Allen keys. Other frame features include a threaded bottom bracket, internal hose guiding and sealed bearings at the pivots. Tyre clearances proved ample during testing, while pivot bolts are easy to access. The internal cable routing feeds neatly into the head tube, minimising cable rub. As you know, Specialized eschew small, medium, large style sizing, instead using S numbers. These go from S1 to S6 with a general idea that you buy on bike length rather than seat tube length. Short seat tubes mean most riders will be able to pick from a range of sizes to dial in the feel of the bike they like. Specialized add in a geometry adjusting flip chip, giving 0.5 degrees of adjustment to the head and seat angles and 7mm BB height adjustment between the high and low settings. The figures are bang on trend with a steep seat angle and slack head angle, as well as long reaches if you assume an S4 is roughly equivalent to a large. I tested an S4 bike with a super short 425mm seat tube and longish 475mm reach in its low setting. The stack in the low setting sits at 632mm, the head angle is 65 degrees and the seat angle is 76 degrees. Shimano's mid-range SLX drivetrain and brakes are a solid choice, with a 10-50 tooth cassette, a 32 ring and snappy brakes that provide tons of power. Fox's Rhythm 34 is up front. It comes with a grip damper and 140mm of travel. At the back there's a float DPS performance shock with Specialized custom RX Trail Tune compression tune. The fork has a compression adjustment via an easy to grab dial on the top of the fork, while the shock has a 3-position lever to toggle from open to firm. Specialized has a wide range of own brand kit, from the cockpit to the wheels and tyres. Their Purgatory and Butchered rubber is featured here in its slightly harder T7 compound and grid casing, both in a 29 by 2.3 inch size. Their alloy wheels feature 28 spokes each. In fact, the only non-Specialized piece of finisher kit is the X-Fusion Manic Dropper. The smallest S1 bikes get 100mm of travel from the post, while the huge S6 gets 190mm. My S4 has 175mm, which feels pretty fair. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about how it's tested and how it feels on the trails. This bike was tested as part of my 2022 Trail Bike of the Year test. It was pitted against 7 other bikes with travel ranging from 120 to 140mm at the rear and priced from £3,299 to £4,000. The bikes were tested all over the UK, from long steep tracks in South Wales, my regular testing loops in the Forest of Dean, fast rocky tracks in the Tweed Valley and fresh cut loam and rocky outcrops of the Cairngorm National Park. If you want to know what bike took this year's Bike of the Year win, check out the card above or the link in the description. Starting with its climb and performance, and it's fair to say it climbs technical trails with ease. The rear suspension is impeccably smooth, aiding the rear tyre to pick out every morsel of grip on offer, even if that's up and over rocky and rooty steps or when scrabbling for traction on wet grassy drags. The Purgatory's T7 compound isn't the softest and the tread isn't the most aggressive, so it feels like the suspension really massages the tyre's abilities here. On smooth climbs, there's a little pedal bob, certainly if the suspension has been set up to be compliant and comfortable on descents, with sag in the region of 28 to 30%. I often found myself reaching the float DPS's lockout lever to quell the squish. The T7 rubber does help keep the bike rolling with good efficiency on tarmac and fire road surfaces, so I rarely found myself cursing up the hills. Put more pressure in there, and obviously the rear end becomes even more stable under power, but you lose the ground-hugging descending capabilities I felt the Stumpy enjoys. In the bike's low setting, the seat tube angle isn't the steepest around at 76 degrees, but it can be effectively steepened by pushing the saddle forward in the seat clamp. On most rides, a 76-degree seat angle will be ample, but riders who ride a lot of steep and technical climbs will want to shuffle that saddle forward for that little extra half degree or so of steepness. With a slack 65-degree head angle, long reach and BB that's 42mm below the axles in its low setting, Specialized has set a high bar on paper for the bike's descending capabilities, even with 130mm of travel at the back. The 4-piston brakes, combined with this modern shape, work well on my slow speed and techie descents, as long as the tyres could keep pace. The Fox 34 might not be enduro ready, but it holds its own here with smooth, supportive and predictable performance. When you really start to slam it into the terrain or load it up into a berm, you can feel the chassis squirm, and this is more pronounced the heavier you are. The grip damper always impresses me. It's not as sophisticated as the Grip 2 found on Performance Elite and factory Fox forks, but I find its lighter tune friendlier on my hands and 95% of the time well up to the job. On grippy, gritstone-like rock, the Butcher T7 front tyre stuck to the ground confidently, meaning rocky technical moves were dispatched with ease. However, on smoother rocks or damp routes, the harder compound rubber struggles to match similar tyres' performance from the likes of Schwalbe and Maxxis. The rear suspension also impressed for the most part. It feels light and responsive, fluttering nicely over high-frequency stutter bumps and boosting grips when I hold on the anchors, remaining pretty active under braking loads. I did find it possible to slam the shock onto its bottom-out bumper on harsh landings, whether I came up short on a jump or took an unsympathetic line over roots. While no bike is immune to bottoming out, there was a bit more of a thunk on the Stumpy on the worst hits. That said, the majority of the time, when the rear suspension was required to support shifts in body weight, the support is there to push against, and if you're regularly bottoming out, volume spacers can be added to the shock. Overall, on fast technical terrain, it's a capable machine, but lacks the absolute composure I found on the Nukeproof reactor, while the shape and demeanour of the Canyon Spectral 125 pips it when it comes to the steepest tracks. Push it hard and it starts to feel unsettled in its balance, the rear suspension getting a touch overwhelmed. When it comes to more mellow terrain, it weaves a nice course between rocks and trees. It's not quite as taut as some bikes in our test when it comes to pumping through rolls or putting hard efforts through the pedals, but it's far from sluggish or lazy. It'll hold speed well and encourage you to push harder and develop your skills, ensuring it's a relaxed and fun bike to ride. If I had to pick the bike's natural home, it'd be day rides on natural single track or quick blasts around a trail centre. If you're more at home seeking out the gnarliest tracks, there are better bikes, and likewise, if you want to taste blood and set some PRs, there are other machines that'll do that faster. However, if you simply want to get out on some trails, the Stumpy is likely going to suit you well. As you'd expect, Specialized has built a remarkably competent trail bike in the Stumpy. It has a good geometry, ensuring confident handling in most conditions, and some well-chosen spec details. It's a really easy bike to jump on and ride, with no funny quirks to catch you out or anything so radical that it feels awkward. As such, while it's impossible to objectively measure, it's a really fun bike to ride, twisting and turning and popping up and over trail obstacles. It's a classic trail bike for middle of the bell curve trails and riders. It might not have quite caught my imagination like the Trek Top Fuel or Canyon Spectral 125 did, but the Stumpy quietly sits there in Specialized range, providing a bike that, in reality, will suit a whole lot of riding and a whole ton of riders. So those are my thoughts, but what are yours? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, why not subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell icon so you know when we post a new video.